Good morning, America. Good morning to everybody. I wanna share a small message concerning spiritual gifts, and I hope that you're blessed by this. Right. So, everybody who's following along with me, I want you to open up your Bibles to 1 Corinthians chapter 12. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, and we're gonna be reading verse 4 to verse 11. Right. So then it says, there are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit distributes them. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but in all of them and in everyone, it is the same God at work. I'm going to read that again. There are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit distributes them. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but in all of them and in everyone, it is the same God at work. Verse 7, now to each one, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good, right? For the common good. So the God distributes the spiritual gifts according to the needs of the church where you are located, or the church where you are, or the vicinity where you live, right? And then it says, to one there is given through the Spirit a message of wisdom, to another a message of knowledge by means of the same Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit, to another gifts of healing by that one Spirit, to another miraculous powers, to another prophecy, to another distinguishing between spirits, to another speaking in different kinds of tongues, and still to another the interpretation of tongues. All these are the work of one and the same Spirit, and He distributes them to each one just as He determines. But I want to focus on verse 7 that says, now to each one the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good. For the common good. Now I'm going to change my translation so that I can be a little bit more basic for the people like, okay, well, what's the common good? Right? So it says, NLT says a spiritual gift is given to each one of us so we can help each other. Let's keep going. Let's see the NET version, New English Translation. It says to each person the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the benefit of all, right? So what happens is when you're given a gift, right, and you are not functioning in that gift, but you're trying to do what somebody else is doing, that means that the function that you're supposed to be fulfilling is not being fulfilled because you're not where you're supposed to be. You're not where you're supposed to be. God distributes the gifts according to the needs of the church, to the needs of everyone present. So if someone is not where they need to be, that means that position is lacking, right? So we understand through that verse, let me go back to NKJV. We understand through that verse that it's the same Lord. It's the same Lord that distributes the gifts to all of us, and it's for the common good. It's different diversities, but it's the same Spirit. So why is it that we are we prefer certain gifts more than others, even though it's the same Spirit and it's for the common good? So a lot of us have the understanding that if we're not ministering in the front, or if our purpose isn't on an altar, then God's not using us. But that's far from the truth. Far from the truth. Regardless of the gifts that are given, it's for the common good, for the needs of everyone that is present. So what I just read, we spoke about word of wisdom, we spoke about word of knowledge, we spoke about faith by the same Spirit, gifts of healing, we spoke about miracles, prophecies, discerning of spirits. And you might be like, oh, well, I don't see where I fit in that. There's more. Exodus 35. Everybody transfer over with me to Exodus 35. When God told Moses to create the tabernacle, right? Chapter 35 says, Moses assembled the whole Israelite community and said to them, these are the things that the Lord has commanded you to do. Right? So he's speaking to them about the Sabbath. Then verse 4, Moses said to the whole Israelite community, this is what the Lord has commanded. From what you have taken offering from the Lord, everyone who is willing to bring to the Lord an offering of gold, silver, bronze, and then it builds all this material. Verse 10, all who are skilled among you are to come and make everything the Lord has commanded. The tabernacle with its tent and its covering, clasp frames, crossbars, posts, and bases. And he's telling them, okay, so basically he's gathering the community of Israel so that everybody can contribute to building the tabernacle. All right, everybody took part of creating the tabernacle. Right, so then we go to verse 20. Then it says that the whole Israelite community withdrew from Moses' presence, and everyone who was willing and whose heart moved then came and brought an offering to the Lord for the work on the tent of meeting and all its service. So everybody is contributing from what they have to create this tabernacle. Let's go to verse 30. So then it says, then Moses said to the Israelites, see, the Lord has chosen Bezalel, I think that's how you say it, son of Uri, the son of Ur, of the tribe of Judah, and he has filled him with the Spirit of God, with wisdom, with understanding, with knowledge, and with all kinds of skills to make artistic, listen to this, artistic designs for work in God, silver and bronze, to cut and set stones, to work in wood, and to engage in all kinds of artistic crafts. So here we see that although the gifts that we mentioned earlier, that we see here that there's a different kinds of set of gifts that were not mentioned in 1 Corinthians 12, but we see that the Lord had chosen Bezalel, right? Filled him with the Spirit of God. He had wisdom, so he had what was mentioned there, but he gave them the wisdom and the understanding for all kinds of skills to make artistic designs. So God gifted him for that specific moment, for when the tabernacle was going to be created. He was going to have these creative ideas and artistic abilities to be able to design the tabernacle. This is just amazing to me, to cut and set stones. This guy was a diamondologist, okay, to work in wood, to engage in all kinds of artistic craft. And then it says, verse 34, and he has given both him and Oholiab, right, of the tribe of Dan, the ability to teach others. He has filled them with skill to do all kinds of work as engravers, designers, embroiderers in blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and fine linen, and weavers, all of them skilled workers and designers. This was their profession. And it says here that it was God that gifted them to function in that role. So it means that you might not have a position, on the altar. Your ministry might not be on the altar. Your ministry might be your career. God might have you where you are. God might have you as a counselor, as a psychologist, and that may very well be the gift that God has for you. Okay? God, please stop limiting God. Let's stop limiting God. God can do anything. God can do anything. Your career can be your ministry. Your career can be your purpose, right? But you don't do, like, you have this 9-to-5 job and you think that that's not ministry, or you think that that's not purpose because it's not on the altar. So you don't do your best. You don't do the best that you can at your job because you think that your purpose has to be between the four walls of the church. Do not limit God. Do not. These people were gifted. God filled them with the ability to be artistic, with the ability to work in gold, with the ability to cut and set stones, with the ability to teach others, with the ability to be engravers. God gave them everything they needed within their profession to be. These guys were architects. These guys were designers, and God gave them that ability. Very well meaning that whatever it is that you're doing may very well be what God wants you to do. So don't discredit your position at work. Don't discredit your career. Don't discredit where God has you, because that can be your gift. And what happens is that when we don't take care of, or when we don't function where God has placed us, we start trying to imitate others because we see that, I don't know, that they're probably getting attention more than you because they're in front, and you're like, oh, well, I'm not ministering, or this is not purpose because I'm not in the front, or because I'm not within the 5 roles of ministry. No, God can gift you in different areas. God can gift you in different areas. Let's stop trying to imitate others, and let's exercise and function within the gifts that God has placed in us. Maybe you're not a singer, maybe you're not a preacher, maybe you're not a teacher, but maybe you're artistic. Maybe you can draw designs, maybe you can draw pictures, right? Maybe you're not in the front, but maybe you're a producer, right? Maybe you're not a singer, but you taught yourself how to play the piano on your own, and you're good at teaching others. That is a gift in itself. Let's keep reading. Then it says, chapter 36. So Bezalel, Oholiab, and every skilled person to whom the Lord had given skill and ability to know how to carry out all the work of constructing the sanctuary are to do the work just as God commanded. It's amazing. God given the skill and ability to be able to work for the temple. But then verse 6 says, then Moses gave an order, and they sent this word throughout the camp: no man or woman is to make anything else. So Moses says that no one is to make anything else as an offering for the sanctuary. And so the people were restrained from bringing more, because what they had already had was more than enough to do all the work. That is amazing. They were creating the temple, and the needs of the church, tabernacle back in the days, the needs of the tabernacle were fulfilled by its own members, meaning that we have a responsibility for the architect, for the construction of where we worship God, and everybody pulled weight. It wasn't just one person, it was everybody pulled their weight. And not only that, God knew that that everybody present had what they needed, had the utensils that were needed to create the tabernacle. Would you look at that? They didn't have to go outside and seek donations from other people, because the needs of the tabernacle were filled by the Israelite community. Meaning that the needs of your church, how do I say this? The resources for the needs of your church are within your church. They're within your church. They're not outside of your church. They're within your church. The needs of your church are within its members. It's not outside. It's not through other people. It's within the members. Okay? So don't limit God. Wherever it is that God has placed you, flourish. Do your best. When you work, do it as though you were working unto the Lord. Everything you do, everything. You might see it as, oh, well, I'm working towards somebody else's vision. No, everything that you do it as though it were unto the Lord. Because by you doing that, you give a good testimony of who God is by your performance, by your work. Don't try to imitate others. Because if your position is void, listen to what happens. Let's say, if I'm a singer, if I am gifted to sing, but I am in the teaching department, that means that everything is dysfunctional because I'm not where I need to be, right? So that means that if I'm in the teaching department and I'm a singer, then that means that people that are singing, is a great possibility that there's somebody that is singing that is supposed to be in the teaching department, but she's singing, right? And I'm supposed to be singing, but I'm in the teaching department. And then things don't flow well, right? Things don't flow well because that's not how it's supposed to be, right? God has distributed the gifts for the common good. Find out where you need to be and flourish there. God can use you in your job. God can use you in your career. God can use you in your creativity, and God can use you in your abilities. God bless you.